Hi, my name is Kyoto, and welcome to We the Constituents Matter. This channel was made for educating, informing, and just giving a refresher course in politics. This channel is also made for the individual who's not so necessarily in politics, but still want to know what's going on with our U.S. government. I do plan to keep the videos short and sweet, but very informative, so let's dig right in. The importance of voting. Voting is a fundamental right that was given to us through the Constitution. Now, it's not necessarily mandatory that we do vote, but it is very, very important that we do make our voice heard. The African American right to vote. So, after the Civil War in 1868, the 14th Amendment gave blacks the rights to citizenship. However, this didn't necessarily mean that we were able to vote. So, in 1870, Congress passed the 15th Amendment, and it's shown right here on the screen. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Now, previous condition of servitude meaning being a slave. So, for states to get around that, they started implementing things such as poll taxes, literacy tests, fraud, intimidation, such as threats and violence. So, in 1915, the Supreme Court ruled against such suppression. So, again, for states to get around the 1915 Supreme Court vote, they implemented the grandfather clause. And what the grandfather clause is that if your grandfather did not vote, then you were not able to vote. But back then, of course, grandfathers were slaves, or they couldn't afford the poll tax, or they could barely read, or they were just intimidated. Now, at this time, women were not able to vote. Women were not given the right to vote until 1920. So, fighting for the right to vote. So, in 1963 and 1964, Dr. Martin Luther King, he brought hundreds of black people to the courthouse in Selma, Alabama to register to vote. Unfortunately, they were not successful with doing that. So, in 1965, Congress did pass the Voting Rights Act, which protected blacks from being excluded from the right to vote. That was signed into law by the 36th president, Lyndon B. Johnson. So right now there is an assault on free and fair elections. Last year, between January and December 7th of 2021, at least 19 states passed restricting access to voting. Basically means they're making laws to make it harder to vote. There were 440 bills with provisions with restricted voting access that were introduced in 49 states. So, some examples of voter suppression. So, number one, fewer places to vote. Now, the population, just say in brown and black communities, they are definitely not decreasing, but increasing. However, they are decreasing polling locations, which equals to longer lines. Purging data rolls. That just basically means, just say, for example, you hadn't voted in the last 2, 3 election cycles. They'll purge you off of the data roll with little notice, so you'll get to the polling location and you'll find out that you're not registered to vote. At the end of this video, I will give a website where you can check to see if you are eligible to vote. Voter fraud claims. That is, oh, well, the election was rigged, or someone cheated, or they just found some ballots. What that does is that undermines the integrity of the vote, and it makes people think that it doesn't really matter whether or not I vote because it's rigged. That is a form of voter suppression. Passing and introducing restrictive laws, which we were talking about in the last slide. Basically, they're just making it harder for us to vote. Um, I have a video that I am putting online that I will identify key states and just give you some examples of some of the laws that they have actually passed. Denying voter option flexibility. I can use Texas as an example for this one. Say for the 2020 election, we did have 24-hour polling locations. We also had drive-through votings. However, that is no longer. That has been denied for us. But again, that does make it harder because everyone can't go, they might have to work or they might not have a babysitter or whatever the case. Our elected officials should be making it easier for us to vote, not harder. Now, there are two bills that we are waiting on Congress to pass that will tackle the obstacles we are having with access to voting. The first one is the Freedom to Vote Act. Now, that's a combination of voting, redistricting, election security, and campaign finance reforms that would ensure minimum national standards for voting access. So that means that it would be across the board. It wouldn't be one state has this law for voting, another state has this law for voting. It's across the board. It also protects against partisans, which are supporters, diehard supporters of a certain party or a certain congressperson, from sabotaging election results. Meaning, if they don't like the results of the election, then they can just overturn it. So, the Freedom to Vote Act protects against those things. Also, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Now, that protects against discriminatory practices implemented in states, regardless of your race, color, or membership in language. And it also restores the voters' ability to challenge discriminatory laws nationwide. So, again, these are two bills that would help in the fight against the assault on free and fair elections. But again, we are waiting on Congress. So on November 8th is our midterm elections. Now, midterms or elections are just as important as the presidential elections because the midterms elections, it tackles your state. It's for your state. Who's going to be running your state. I will in future videos be going over the roles and duties of such elected officials. That way you're able to look in your state to see whether or not they are doing what they are paid to do. Okay. Now, as far as to see if you're eligible for voting, you can go to www.usa.gov, shown right here on the left. It is very user friendly. So you can go and see if you are eligible to vote at the moment. If you can early vote, that would be easier. I found personally that it's easier for me to just go before November the 8th. But definitely November the 8th is the date. We do need to make our voice heard. We, the constituents, matter. Constituents is us. So it's the voters, it's the people, and we do matter. We send our elected officials to Congress to work for us or in our state, and that's what they should be doing. So we'll definitely be talking about that in future videos. If you have any questions for me or would like me to research any laws or bills or what's going on in your state, you can email me at wtcmatter@gmail.com. It's shown on the screen here as well. If I would definitely want to thank you for taking the time to watch the video. I would appreciate it if you could like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. I do also have my Cash App, my Zelle, and Venmo listed in the bio, and I would definitely love your support as well. So I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.